Hey everyone! Today, get ready for some unbelievably funny and shocking moments from history in our top 10 mind-bending events in history. From soldiers taking on birds in a wildly surprising war, to a guy selling the Eiffel Tower twice. A tragically ironic ending for a notable figure that will leave you in awe, the story of the Great Molasses Flood, and more. Before we dive into these tales, make sure to hit that subscribe button and don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our fascinating content. Without further ado, let's get into the countdown. Number 1. Dark Comedy of Errors, the absurd tale of Franz Ferdinand's assassination. Have you ever heard of the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand? It's a historical event that marked the beginning of World War I. But what makes this story truly fascinating are the crazy incidents surrounding it. In the early 20th century, Europe was a hotbed of political tensions, and one of the sparks that ignited the conflict was the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. The Black Hand, a secret nationalist organization based in Serbia, played a crucial role in this tragic event. Motivated by nationalist fervor and the dream of unifying South Slavic territories under Serbian rule, the members of the Black Hand saw Franz Ferdinand as a symbol of the oppressive Austro-Hungarian Empire. In the complex series of events that took place on June 28, 1914, the assassination attempts on Archduke Franz Ferdinand were marked by a series of bizarre twists and ironic turns. Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne and Inspector General of the Armed Forces, was in Sarajevo with his wife, as part of a motorcade ride to inspect the Imperial Armed Forces stationed in Bosnia and Herzegovina. This visit was intended to symbolize a conciliatory gesture toward the diverse ethnic groups within the empire. The Archduke's decision to inspect the military units came against the backdrop of rising nationalist tensions in the region. Bosnia and Herzegovina, annexed by the Austro-Hungarian Empire in 1908, was a hotbed of ethnic and political strife. Franz Ferdinand's visit was aimed to demonstrate a commitment to stability and unity within the empire. Danilo Ilić, a member of the Black Hand organization, was involved in planning the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. He coordinated a group of assassins and positioned them along the motorcade route in Sarajevo. The key assassins included, among them the most notable being Gavrilo Princip, Nedeljko Kabrinović, Vaso Kubrilovic, Mohamed Mehmed Basic, Svjetko Popovic, and Trifko Grabez. The motorcade passed the first assassin, Mohamed Mehmed Basic, positioned near the Mostar Cafe armed with a bomb. However, he hesitated and failed to act. Danilo Ilić, the orchestrator of the plot, had placed Vaso Kubrilovic next to Mehmed Basic with a pistol and a bomb. But even he succumbed to hesitation, missing the opportunity to strike. Further along the route, Nedeljko Kabrinovic, armed with a bomb, was positioned near the Miljacka River. As Franz Ferdinand's car approached, Kabrinovic threw his bomb. In a bizarre turn of events, the bomb bounced off the folded-back convertible cover, landing in the street. The timed detonator caused it to explode under the following car, leaving a significant crater and injuring numerous bystanders. Seemingly unfazed by the unexpected outcome, Kabrinovic, determined to make a daring exit, decided to take a cyanide pill to avoid capture. However, instead of a swift and final act, the attempt goes comically awry, as the old cyanide induced nothing more than violent vomiting. And then, as if things couldn't get any more farcical, Kabrinovic, after failing in his attempt to use cyanide, jumps into a nearby river hoping to meet a more, well, let's say, misfortunate end. But, plot twist, the river turns out to be a mere 13 centimeters or about 5 inches deep due to the hot, dry summer. The police, not impressed by Kabrinovic's theatrics, promptly dragged him out of the shallow water. Unfortunately for him, the crowd, now aware of the failed assassination attempt, expressed their displeasure by giving him a good beating. Hold on to your hats because the wild and somber tale isn't over yet. After the initial failed attempt, Archduke Franz Ferdinand decided to visit the wounded from the earlier attack at the hospital. Unfortunately, due to a series of miscommunications, the Archduke's driver unintentionally took a wrong turn. In a last-minute effort to correct the route, the driver applied the brakes. However, when he attempted to put the car into reverse gear, he accidentally stalled the engine. Remarkably, This turn of events placed them right in front of a food shop where Gavrilo Princip, one of the assassins affiliated with a nationalist group bummed by the failed assassination, had coincidentally chosen to enjoy a sandwich. Seizing the opportunity presented by this pure coincidence, Princip fired 2 fatal shots from point-blank range, assassinating the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne and his wife. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand served as a catalyst, intensifying existing rivalries and triggering a series of events that ultimately led to the outbreak of World War I. Number 2. Survivor of 2 atomic bombs in just 3 days. Tsutomu Yamaguchi was a Japanese marine engineer who defied the odds as the sole officially recognized survivor of both harrowing experiences of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki atomic bombings during World War II. Born on March 16, 1916, in Nagasaki, he joined Mitsubishi Heavy Industries in the 1930s, contributing to the design of oil tankers. In August 1945, while on a business trip to Hiroshima, he was preparing to leave the city when the first atomic bomb, codenamed Little Boy, was dropped by the American B-29 bomber Enola Gay. Despite being less than 2 miles away, he miraculously survived, enduring severe injuries that included ruptured eardrums, temporary blindness, and serious radiation burns over the left side of the top half of his body. A mere 3 days later, on August 9, 1945, Yamaguchi found himself at work in Nagasaki when the second atomic bomb, codenamed Fat Man, was dropped by the American bomber Bockscar. In Nagasaki, Yamaguchi's workplace positioned him approximately 3 kilometers from ground zero during the second atomic bomb explosion. Remarkably, he emerged physically unharmed by the blast itself. However, the challenges persisted. Unable to replace his now ruined bandages from the injuries sustained in Hiroshima, Yamaguchi faced a new set of struggles. He endured a high fever and continuous vomiting for over a week, underscoring the ongoing health repercussions of his exposure to the atomic bombings. As Yamaguchi aged, he became an advocate for nuclear disarmament, emphasizing the impact on human dignity. His recognition as the only official double survivor came in March 2009, a fact he saw as a duty to share the horrifying history of atomic bombings. Tsutomu Yamaguchi passed away on January 4, 2010, at the age of 93, leaving behind a legacy of survival, advocacy, and a poignant call for a world free from the horrors of nuclear weapons. Number 3. The only surgery in history with a 300% mortality rate. In the early 19th century, during a time when surgical procedures were conducted with speed rather than the precision and sterility we associate with modern medicine, Robert Liston emerged as a notable figure in the world of surgery. His reputation for being the fastest surgeon was a testament to his ability to swiftly perform surgeries, particularly amputations, at a pace that seemed almost unparalleled for his era. One of the most infamous tales from Liston's career revolves around a particular surgical procedure that took place in the mid-1800s. The details of the story have undoubtedly been colored by the passage of time and the penchant for embellishment in historical anecdotes, but the core events remain a chilling reflection of the medical practices of the time. In this particular instance, Liston was faced with a patient requiring an amputation. With a crowd of onlookers in attendance, he wasted no time, brandishing his instruments with remarkable speed. As he deftly removed the diseased limb, the atmosphere in the operating theater was charged with a mix of awe and tension. However, Liston's rapidity came at a cost. In the midst of his swift movements, he unintentionally amputated not only the patient's leg, but also the fingers of his unfortunate assistant. The assistant, already a casualty of the procedure, recoiled in pain, adding an unexpected layer of chaos to the scene. As if that wasn't enough, the intense spectacle proved too much for a spectator in the gallery. The sheer shock and horror of witnessing the rapid and seemingly brutal surgery led to the spectator collapsing and succumbing to a fatal heart attack. The aftermath of this frenetic surgical display was grim. The patient, the assistant, and the unfortunate spectator all faced dire consequences. Post-operative complications, exacerbated by the lack of understanding of infection control in that era, led to the demise of the patient and the assistant. The unintentional casualties resulted in a shocking statistic, a 300% mortality rate for that particular surgical procedure. Number 4. Mary indeed had a lamb. In 1830, in the town of Sterling, Massachusetts, lived an 11-year-old girl named Mary Sawyer. Mary was known for her kind and gentle nature, and she had a special bond with a little lamb. This lamb, with its fleece as white as snow, had become Mary's devoted companion. The two were inseparable, and wherever Mary went, the little lamb would follow. One day, as Mary headed to school, her fluffy companion decided to tag along. The lamb was so devoted to Mary that it waited for her outside the school, patiently standing by the door. The sight caught the attention of a young man named John Rulestone, who happened to be visiting the school that day. John Rulestone was so captivated by the scene of Mary and her loyal lamb that he was inspired to jot down a few lines. Mary had a little lamb, its fleece was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. These lines marked the beginning of what would become one of the most famous nursery rhymes in history. The poem quickly gained popularity, spreading far beyond the borders of Sterling and eventually becoming a cherished part of children's literature. In the late 1860s, Thomas Edison, a pioneer in audio technology, harnessed the power of the newly invented phonograph. Seeking the perfect words to demonstrate the capabilities of his invention, Edison chose none other than the beloved lines of "Mary Had a Little Lamb." Thus, the nursery rhyme became the inaugural recording on the phonograph, etching its place in the annals of technological history. Mary Sawyer, the girl behind the nursery rhyme, didn't fade into obscurity. In fact, she played a role in ensuring the legacy of her beloved lamb lived on. Mary later became involved in raising funds for her local church by selling wool from the lamb. Her connection to the rhyme added a personal touch to its enduring appeal, transforming a simple childhood experience into a timeless and cherished piece of literary history. So, the next time you hear the familiar lines of "Mary Had a Little Lamb," know that they are more than just words on a page. They are a glimpse into the heartwarming story of a girl, her lamb, and the enduring magic that turned a simple moment into an everlasting piece of history. Number 5. The Great Molasses Flood. On the seemingly ordinary day of January 15, 1919, the North End neighborhood of Boston bore witness to a calamity that defied imagination. The Great Molasses Flood, a colossal storage tank holding a staggering 2.3 million gallons of molasses, stood as a massive, unsuspecting presence, looming over the city with its sweet yet somewhat ominous nature. Little did the residents know that this day would etch the infamous pages of history. The looming cast-iron giant, a massive tank, succumbed to the forces of what experts later identified as a cylinder stress failure. In an instant, a monstrous wave of molasses, propelled by an eerie speed of 35 miles per hour, faster than the average car on a highway, engulfed the streets, transforming the city into a surreal landscape of sticky chaos. The aftermath was as tragic as it was bizarre. The relentless molasses wave, standing at an astonishing 25 feet high, surged through the streets with an unstoppable force. Buildings crumbled, horses drowned, and unfortunate souls found themselves at the mercy of this sweet yet deadly deluge. The Boston Globe vividly recounted scenes of people being picked up by a rush of air and hurled many feet, and even trucks met an unexpected fate as they were casually tossed into Boston Harbor. Amidst the chaos, a touch of dark humor emerged in the form of blame shifting. The United States Industrial Alcohol Company, USIA, responsible for the molasses catastrophe, initially pointed fingers at anarchists. Their claim? A molasses disaster caused by anarchist saboteurs, serving as a convenient cover story for their alcohol production for munitions. However, the court saw through this ruse and held the company accountable. In the aftermath, 21 lives were lost, and around 150 individuals suffered injuries. The sweet substance that caused this tragedy was not only a popular ingredient in beverages, but also a crucial component in munitions. The disaster unfolded at the Purity Distilling Company facility, where molasses, warmed to reduce viscosity for transfer, proved to be a ticking time bomb when coupled with a sudden rise in temperature. Amidst this tragedy, 119 residents sought justice through a groundbreaking class-action lawsuit against USIA, marking one of Massachusetts' first such cases. After 3 years of legal battles, the company was found liable and ordered to pay a staggering $628,000 in damages. Adjusted for inflation, this amount would be equivalent to approximately $9.9 million in today's currency, highlighting the significant impact of the compensation awarded for the devastation caused by the Great Molasses Flood of 1919. The Great Molasses Flood of 1919, with its bizarre blend of tragedy, unexpected consequences, and a touch of dark humor, remains an indelible mark on Boston's history. It stands as a reminder that sometimes reality can be stranger and more devastating than fiction. Number 6. The tragic and ironic end of General Sedgwick. On that fateful day, May 9, 1864, the Battle of Spotsylvania Courthouse was in full swing, marking a crucial moment in the American Civil War. Major General John Sedgwick, a respected and experienced Union commander, found himself on the front lines, directing his troops near the left flank of Confederate defenses. Sedgwick, known for his calm demeanor and unwavering courage, was assessing the situation as Confederate sharpshooters lurked about 900 meters away. The air was thick with the acrid smell of gunpowder and the relentless cracks of gunfire echoing through the battlefield. His men, including members of his staff and infantry from the 87th Pennsylvania and 14th New Jersey, along with artillerymen from the 1st Massachusetts, were taking cover behind hastily erected barricades as shots rang out. In the face of danger, some of his officers became concerned for his safety and suggested that he move to a safer location. However, Sedgwick displayed a nonchalant attitude, striding around in the open and chiding his men for dodging single bullets. "What? Men dodging this way for single bullets? What will you do when they open fire along the whole line?" he remarked, attempting to bolster their confidence. But his men, still busy doing the bullet duck dance, weren't exactly in the mood for jokes. Although ashamed and despite his efforts, his men continued to flinch, prompting Sedgwick to express his disbelief, stating, "Why are you dodging like this? They couldn't hit an elephant at this distance." Tragically, those would be among Sedgwick's last words. At that exact moment, in a twist that even the best storytelling couldn't predict, a Whitworth rifle bullet decided to join the conversation. With impeccable timing, it struck Sedgwick squarely under the left eye, mortally wounding him just after he uttered those words. Number 7. The man who sold the Eiffel Tower twice and got away with it. In the year 1925, while strolling the cobblestone streets of Paris, Victor Lustig stumbled upon a newspaper article bemoaning the sorry state of the Eiffel Tower. The majestic monument was losing its sparkle, and the city was nearly bankrupt trying to keep it in tip-top shape, detailing the financial struggles and maintenance challenges faced by the Eiffel Tower. Ah, the perfect recipe for a con. Seizing this opportunity, Lustig cooked up a plan to convince scrap metal dealers that the French government intended to sell the iconic monument for scrap. With forged government documents and an air of authority, he summoned a group of unsuspecting scrap metal dealers to an extravagant hotel for a confidential meeting. Dressed as the Deputy Director General of the Ministère de Poste et Télégraphe, Ministry of Posts and Telegraphs, he spun a yarn about the French government's desperate desire to sell the Eiffel Tower for scrap. The reason cited was the high maintenance costs, but he stressed that the details must remain confidential until thoroughly considered. Such a transaction, he claimed, would be contentious and could cause public outrage. Lustig convinced his gullible audience that the deal had to be as secretive as a cat's shadow, and he was there to handpick the lucky dealer who would become the proud owner of the world-famous tower, asserting that the group had been deliberately chosen because of their reputations as honest businessmen. He fascinated them with tales of the Eiffel Tower not fitting in with the city's other monuments, like a misplaced accessory at a fashionable ball. To add an air of legitimacy, Lustig took the dealers on a tour of the Eiffel Tower, showcasing its flaws and emphasizing the enormous cost of maintenance. He then conducted a secret auction among the interested scrap dealers, asking for bribes in exchange for the privilege of winning the bid. What set Lustig apart was not just his ability to create convincing facades, but also his skill in reading people. In this masquerade of mischief, Lustig set his sights on André Poisson as the perfect mark, an insecure man desperately dreaming of rising among the Parisian elite. By playing on Poisson's desires, Lustig persuaded him to pay a substantial bribe for the supposed ownership of the Eiffel Tower. Our charming swindler played his cards right, and Poisson took the bait, hook, line, and sinker. Poisson, blinded by visions of profit, eagerly parted with a bag of cash, around 70,000 francs, as a bribe to seal the deal. And then, like a ghost in the night, Lustig vanished to Austria, leaving the dealer with nothing but a tale to tell. But the saga doesn't end there. Oh no, Lustig's audacity didn't stop with the first successful attempt to sell the Eiffel Tower. He was so emboldened by his initial success that he decided to try the scam again. Lustig suspected that his mark, Monsieur Poisson, would be too embarrassed to spill the beans to the police. Turns out he was right. No news of the con in the papers meant Lustig could play the game again. So he returned to Paris to sell the Eiffel Tower once more. Lustig managed to identify a potential buyer among the dealers as he attempted to defraud another set of people. However, this time the authorities learned of the scheme and he fled to the United States to avoid being arrested. And so, the tale of Victor Lustig, the Eiffel Tower trickster, adds another chapter to the annals of history, filled with chuckles, raised eyebrows, and a lingering question. How did he manage to convince people to buy a whole darn tower? Number 8. The Cobra Effect. British colonial rule authorities in India during the 19th century found themselves facing a slithery predicament, an alarming number of cobras weaving their way through the city. The British folks, who were in charge at the time, put on their thinking caps and came up with what they thought was a brilliant idea that they believed would put a swift end to the reptilian invasion, a bounty for every dead cobra brought to them. The people of Delhi, always ready for an entrepreneurial venture, embraced the opportunity. It wasn't long before the entrepreneurial spirit of the locals transformed the city into a bustling cobra hunting community. At first, the plan seemed to work splendidly. Dead cobras were turning up left and right, and the streets of Delhi were becoming safer by the day, or so it seemed. Little did the officials know that the industrious citizens had found a shortcut. Instead of going out to catch wild cobras, some smart folks started breeding them in their homes. They realized they could make easy money by turning in these homegrown cobras and collecting the reward. Clever entrepreneurs began cultivating cobra farms, ensuring a steady supply of the venomous serpents to exchange for the handsome bounty. However, as with any good tale of unintended consequences, the authorities caught wind of the sneaky snake business and decided to put an end to the bounty program. Panic ensued among the cobra breeders, who found themselves stuck with a surplus of venomous reptiles and no profit to be made. What to do with all those extra cobras? Release them, of course. In a bizarre turn of events, the streets of Delhi witnessed an unintended cobra liberation movement. The disappointed snake farmers released their captive cobras into the wild, leading to a sudden surge in the city's snake population. What was initially a well-intentioned effort to curb the cobra problem had inadvertently transformed Delhi into a snake haven. The Cobra Effect has since become a metaphor for well-intentioned solutions that lead to unintended and often counterproductive consequences. It underscores the importance of carefully considering the potential outcomes of policies and interventions. Number 9. The Papal Schism. The Great Schism of the Catholic Church, where popes were popping up like confused jack-in-the-boxes, began in 1378 when Pope Gregory II died. At that time, the papacy was based in Avignon, France, so the Catholic Church hosted the biggest papal party ever to elect the successor. The cardinals waltzed into Rome with their fancy hats, ready to elect a new pope. But an angry mob tired of French popes crashed the party, demanding an Italian pope instead of a French one. Under the threat of becoming the mob's piñata, the cardinals quickly voted for an Italian pope, thinking they had dodged a holy bullet. They elected Pope Urban VI in Rome, to give a taste of Italian flair to the papacy. However, not everyone was thrilled with this new act. A rebellious group of French cardinals, feeling a bit dramatic, declared Urban VI's election invalid, citing alleged pressure and foul play. They packed their bags and headed back to France, where they decided, hey, let's elect our own French pope. In a theatrical twist, they crowned their own pope, Clement VII, who set up a rival headquarters in Avignon, France. So now you've got a double-decker pope situation, one in Rome, one in Avignon, both claiming to be the real deal. Attempts to reconcile this holy mess failed miserably. Not satisfied with a comedy duo, a grand council in Pisa thought they could solve everything by firing both popes and hiring a third, Pope Alexander V. Turns out, Alexander V wasn't everyone's cup of sacramental wine. The original duo refused to accept their pink slips, leaving the church with not two but now three popes in the big top. Now you've got three popes, each pointing fingers at the others and yelling, "You're not the real pope, I am!" The chaos persisted, extending its influence even to the successors of the popes. Finally, the Catholic Church got its act together at the Council of Constance. During the council, they ousted all the successors of the rivaling popes and organized a sort of papal bake-off. A new pope, Martin V, was elected in 1417, uniting the church under a single papacy and officially ending the Western Schism. The comedy of errors ended, and everyone agreed to pretend the whole thing never happened. Number 10. The Great Emu War. After World War I, Aussie veterans were given land in Western Australia to try their hand at farming. When the Great Depression hit in 1929, these farmers were promised government help to grow more wheat, but the support never arrived. To make matters more interesting, around 20,000 emus, seemingly innocent, a large flightless bird with a penchant for crop destruction, decided to crash the party. These troublemakers migrated to the farmlands, munching on crops, wrecking fences, and causing chaos. The emus, in their wisdom or lack thereof, decided that the veteran farmers' crops were the hottest spots for a family picnic. The farmers, feeling a bit perplexed, turned to the Australian government for assistance. Given that they were war veterans with experience, they marched their way to the Minister of Defence, Sir George Pearce, and requested military intervention using machine guns. Because clearly, what's more effective against crop-invading birds than machine guns, right? Minister Pearce, perhaps seeing an opportunity for some unconventional target practice, agreed. Conditions were set, plans were made, and thus began the Emu War. The military, under the command of Major Gwynedd Purves Wyn Aubrey Meredith, armed with Lewis machine guns and 10,000 rounds of ammunition, embarked on a mission to ride the land of these disruptive invaders. The veteran soldiers, thinking they had the upper hand, decided to use their trusty machine guns, thinking they could teach the emus a lesson or two about war. The first attempt in November 2, 1932, saw some initial success, with a few dozen emus meeting their demise. However, the avian invaders proved to be even more cunning than anticipated, skillfully evading bullets with the finesse of seasoned veterans. The operation became more of a comedy of errors, with emus outsmarting soldiers and machine guns jamming at the most inconvenient times. These emus weren't your average flightless birds. Oh no, these were emus with attitude, equipped with swift legs and nimble moves that would put any ballerina to shame. The soldiers tried everything, from mounting guns on trucks to relocating south where the birds were supposedly fairly tame. As the soldiers unleashed a barrage of bullets, the emus went full-on guerrilla tactics. They dodged and weaved, executing tactical maneuvers that would make even the most battle-hardened soldiers envy their finesse. The emus were like avian ninjas, elusive and quick, making the soldiers wonder if they were fighting birds or feathered wizards. As the military found itself increasingly overwhelmed by the unexpected twists of the war, Major Meredith, in a moment of poetic defeat, compared the emus to Zulus and marveled at their maneuverability. He said, "If we had a military division with the bullet-carrying capacity of these birds, it would face any army in the world. They can face machine guns with the invulnerability of tanks. They are like Zulus, whom even dumb bullets could not stop." By November 8th, after firing 2,500 rounds of ammunition, the military threw in the towel and initiated a swift retreat. Soon, the Australian public caught wind of this comical fiasco, and the Emu War turned into a national spectacle. Newspapers had a field day, creating headlines like "Foul Foes Defeat Dumbfounded Diggers" and "Emus Won, Machine Gun Zero." The whole country was in stitches over the absurdity of it all. After the military's hasty retreat, the emus, unimpressed by military tactics, continued their relentless assault on crops, turning Western Australia's farmlands into their personal all-you-can-eat buffet. The farmers, faced with the dual challenge of unwelcome intruders and the scorching sun, decided it was time to call in the big guns again. James Mitchell, the Premier of Western Australia, threw his support behind the beleaguered farmers, who were tired of being outwitted by their winged foes. Meanwhile, a report from the base commander claimed that the initial operation had resulted in the heroic demise of 300 emus, a valiant effort, or so it seemed. Responding to the pleas for help and the base commander's report, the Minister of Defense gave the nod to restart the Emu War. Defending the decision in the Senate, he argued that these birds posed a serious agricultural threat, conveniently ignoring the fact that the emus were executing a flawless military strategy against the human forces. Now, with military assistance reinstated, the soldiers geared up for the showdown. However, the military, expecting the locals to step up, found themselves disappointed. Emu hunting expert Meredith once again thrust into the field because apparently Western Australia was suffering from a severe shortage of experienced emu combatants. Armed and ready on November 13, 1932, the military initially found success, with approximately 40 emus meeting their end in the first 2 days. The third day, however, proved less triumphant. Nevertheless, by December 2nd, the soldiers were achieving a kill rate of about 100 emus per week. Progress, or so they thought. Major GPW Meredith, the reluctant emu exterminator, finally got the call back on December 10th. In his report, he proudly claimed 986 confirmed emu kills with precisely 9,860 rounds fired, averaging an impressive 10 rounds per confirmed kill. Not to be outdone, Meredith also asserted that exactly 2,500 wounded emus had succumbed to their injuries. Assessing the success of the emu cull, an article in the Coolgardie Miner on August 23, 1935, proclaimed that despite criticism of the use of machine guns, the method had proven effective. It had not only saved what remained of the wheat, but also solidified the emu's reputation as formidable opponents in the annals of agricultural warfare. The emus, it seemed, had staged a strategic retreat, leaving behind a trail of bullet-ridden feathers and a story that would be chuckled about for years to come. In the end, the emus emerged victorious, not by force, but by sheer comedic genius. The soldiers, humbled by their defeat at the wings of these swift, nimble, and surprisingly strategic birds, had no choice but to acknowledge the emus' prowess. Now, if we do some quick math, out of the 20,000 emus that gracefully tap-danced into their farms, that's, well, a minimal impact. Hey Major, let's face it, the emus won this one. They did a dance, dodged bullets, and left with a story to tell. Call it a tactical retreat or a tap-dancing victory. Those emus got style. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe for more contents like this.